We were looking at guys entering their contract year on the team, and there's some very interesting decisions that the Broncos are going to have to make. Probably the most interesting is Ja'Quan McMillian, and Riley Moss are both entering their contract year. It seems like it's going to be difficult for the Broncos to keep both of those guys when they're also paying Pat Surtain. Yep. How do you think they're going to choose which one, and which one do you think, if they had to choose between them, you would keep moving forward?
Both good players, but I'm a huge Ja'Quan McMillian fan. He's basically played every game over the last 3 years. He fills up the stat sheet, whether it's forced fumbles, interceptions, fumble recovery, sacks, quarterback hits, blitzes. Everybody's looking for that slot defender. They're hard to find. They're hard to develop. When you get one, you want to keep them. He's what Kenny Moore is doing. It's what Taron Johnson did in Buffalo. These guys are hard to find. I feel like they drafted the replacement for Riley last year. We'll see how that plays out. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be hard to pay both. But if I had my choice, and that's not to slight Riley at all, but I feel like Ja'Quan has earned another contract the way he's performed.
It's interesting with guys like J-Mac who, it's all about the plays they make. Typically with cornerbacks, like we had Chris Harris here, who obviously made some plays, but he also was just known as a lockdown nickel corner. Like he would just line up against whoever's in the slot, and the guy couldn't get open. And talking to, PJ Locke had some of that with J-Mac too, who you box safety, you blitz him off the edge. I remember talking to PJ after, it was like 4 straight weeks with no tackles for loss, no sacks or any of that. And just the pressure that builds when, if you're a J-Mac whose job is make plays, not necessarily I'm a cornerback, you aren't going to hear from me. What do you think of that aspect of that specific kind of heavy nickel almost position?
Oh, it should be a Pro Bowl position. I mean, it's a separate, in this league where most teams line up in 11 or some form of 11 personnel. We know the tight ends made a big comeback last year, but most teams have got basically 3 receivers on the field for much of the game. And even if you're in 2 tight ends, you can still play your nickel in some ways, in some form. I mean, that position, I remember when Charles Woodson, went into the nickel when he went to Green Bay, and he was the best nickel ever. And he was that guy. You couldn't block him. He made every tackle. He made a ton of plays, whether it was on the blitzes, because it's the shortest distance, from that slot position, and you're cheating it. And then, next thing you know, the quarterback's looking the other way, and you're getting a free hit at the quarterback. They get quite a few runs like that. But those guys, I mean, just go look. I know you have, but just look at the stat sheet that Ja'Quan has filled up here over the last 3 years. I mean, he's doing what you want your nickels to be able to do.
Yeah, 100%. It's pretty crazy. Baldy, on the other side of the ball, Evan Engram is entering a contract year, and we saw Evan in OTAs and mandatory minicamp this year just have a phenomenal couple of practices that we were able to see, caught so many passes. And I want to ask you, do you think, even though we don't know what the Davis Webb offense is going to look like with him calling plays, do you think that he can bring Evan back to where he was a couple of years ago, and the Evan Engram that we thought we were getting here in Denver last year, even though he had a down year last year? Or do you think what we saw last year is probably who we're going to see again this year?
I don't know, because I don't know what the offense is going to look like and how they're going to feature receivers. Obviously, Jaylen Waddle is going to get, probably the majority of the receiver targets, or not the majority. He's going to get his share of targets. But those are, you basically got him in there to be a deep threat. Evan Engram has made a good living in this business with the Giants and with the Jags, and not so much last year in Denver, but he's made a good living working in the middle of the field. And you've got to put those kind of plays in to feature him. And, I think he still's got a lot of football left. But, they drafted 2 tight ends. I'm sure he's highly motivated right now to play well, maybe get another contract, whether it's Denver or someplace else. But I think it would behoove Davis Webb to include Evan Engram. Okay, spread the ball around so many different ways. The running backs catch a lot. But I think Evan Engram should be a big part of this. I'd be surprised if he isn't this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. We've talked a little bit about Davis Webb coming from the air raid and whether he could implement some of that sort of stuff. Like go empty, let Bo call more at the line of scrimmage, go with the hurry up, split guys out wide. And Evan could kind of fit into that as well, just given the type of player he is. What would you think of seeing more of that?
Well, I mean, look, he came out of Texas Tech, and Cliff was running the air raid. Everybody in the Big 12 was running some version of the air raid. Heck, they didn't even have a tight. I think Jason Morrow might have been the tight end at Texas Tech, but I mean, they basically were in four wide. So Oklahoma State was. I mean, they're all in some form of it. But basically, Cliff always wanted to spread the ball out. If you watch what Cliff did in Washington, especially that first year when Jaden Daniels was the Rookie of the Year, I mean, they spread you out to run the ball. Now, the quarterback had a lot of runs, and that became kind of a problem for him because he ended up getting banged up. But I feel like that's kind of one of their – it's not a secret sauce, but they do want to spread you out formation-wise to run the ball. I mean, there's going to be an emphasis on being able to run the ball well. When you think of air raid, it's not just throwing the ball down the field and being in four wide and no huddle and no, they want to run the ball. They want to get passing lanes. They want to get numbers advantages. They're going to count the box, 5 in the box. They're going to run it. I mean, it's kind of a numbering system and what the quarterback looks at and what they're going to do. So I would think formation-wise, you may see a little bit more spread formations, but spread formations to ideally really run the ball and run the ball better than what they did the last couple of years.
And Baldy, you're talking about run the ball. You mentioned the quarterback position as well. I got to ask you about Bo Nix. We were able to see Bo on the field for mandatory minicamp. He's supposed to be full go for training camp. And one of the things that Sean and Bo both emphasized when we talked to him last week was how Bo is not going to change the type of player he is despite the ankle injuries. They said he's still going to run. Sean Payton called it his superpower. Do you think that's what the Broncos should do, is still let Bo be as mobile as he is? Or do you think they should rein that in a little bit because of the injuries?
I don't know how you really rein it in. I mean, I think it's in his DNA to do this, what we've seen him do. I feel like I don't think it's a superpower, but these guys that have been doing this a long time and they want to clear the pocket. Sometimes they want to run to get to a scramble drill, to get guys open. Sometimes they run because that's their best option. It's all about, look, the freak injury at the end of the playoff game, like that's not from running or anything else. He's been healthy for the most part throughout the 35 starts or whatever he has right now. I don't believe he needs to change much. I think he's difficult to defend because of his mobility and how well he sees the field and how well he plays on the run. I think he plays really, really well like that. So I don't think they should try to make him more of a pocket quarterback or try to legislate, because you can't legislate against injuries. And his injury to the ankle is a freak injury, and that's a prime example. Like if you try to legislate this whole thing, saying, okay, we're gonna corral, we're gonna make sure he knows when to get down. Like I don't think he can play that way. I don't think any quarterback can play that way.
Agree. I love it.
I'm curious whether they lean into some of that read option type stuff, because we've seen it kind of come and go at various times. But like what you were saying, if you're trying to spread them out and run the ball, you have a quarterback who can really help. Maybe not to a Jaden Daniels extent, but along those lines at least.
Oh, he's definitely going to have some options to run it. There's going to be read option, triple option. There's going to be some of that in the playbook. Now, how much of it? I don't think it's going to be a big portion, but 3rd and 2, you put a defense in a bind when you have the quarterback that can execute a read option, out of a shotgun formation. It's just difficult to defend. And so I think it's going to be a part of the offense. How big? I don't think it's going to be a big chunk of it, but it's going to be a part of the run game for sure.
Baldy, final one for you before you head out to the World Cup. It's the question that we put out to our community today. If you could choose one former Bronco in their prime to join the Broncos this year, who would it be?
Well, it'd be Vaughn. It'd be Vaughn. I mean, he's probably the best defender the Broncos have ever had. I'm around him. I'm going to see him in 2 weeks in Las Vegas at a SAC Summit. I know he's working out. I'll probably see him in Dallas training. I think, look, he had over 9 sacks last year playing 30% of the snaps. Like, he still has the ability to get to a quarterback. I mean, I wouldn't even blink about bringing Vaughn back.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And you know what? It could be a realistic possibility, which is crazy. We appreciate you joining us.
I know for a fact he would want to come back and play his last year or 2 years there for sure.
I love it, Baldy. You enjoy the game today. We appreciate you jumping on, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, you got it, guys. See it.
That is the legend, Brian Baldinger, joining us on the Xfinity Mobile call-in line.